just thought it'd be fun to talk to the John impersonators that we have about John Lennon, because who knows more about John than you guys, I figured.
We prefer the term fakers. Thank you very much.
Fakers, yeah. Is that it? I never know what to call it, if it's impersonator, or like lookalike, or sound alike, or
depends on the level of psychosis, really.
Yeah, because like for Elvis, it's like Elvis tribute artist. It's not Elvis impersonator if you get really into it. So
yeah, you look at like the guys that walk around in their normal daily life look exactly like the guy they portray. They're taking it to a whole nother level.
That's
like,
very serious.
Like I put John on and take John off. And, the rest of the time I only shave 35 times a year.
For each
when we play, it comes off and then it
comes back. Well, you got to maintain your individuality, I assume.
I just don't like shaving.
So
it hurts.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not really sure, but
well.
But anyway, thanks for joining me. I have with me, let's talk to the audience as if we're talking to the audience now. I got with me Michael Muratori from Hard Day's Night, and I have Eli from BritBeat. Thanks for being here, you guys.
I don't have a last name. I'm like Cher.
Oh, Cher, sorry. You are like Cher.
Well, no one can say it. No one can pronounce it properly anyway.
What is it? Yeah, Echevarria?
Echevarria.
Echevarria. Okay.
Yeah.
See?
That's both of us. Yeah.
There you go. I didn't want to butcher it, but I did.
I appreciate that. Right. As do my ancestors.
Yeah. But anyway, so as you guys obviously know, I just wanted to check in with you first. And this year, we lost 3 events. It's been a tough year for musicians and event producers alike. So how are you guys hanging in there? You guys doing okay? And how are your bands? If you're doing any live streams, I just want to know what's up with you guys.
Yeah, we had all of our shows were canceled, obviously. We played once in West Virginia because West Virginia didn't get the memo, apparently. Right. Other than that, we've done a couple live streams. We're planning another one coming up here on October 17th from a nice venue in Columbus that's loaning us the theater for the day.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to go in and do some cut-ups and then the live stream. And then, yeah, hopefully this stuff slows down in 2021, gets back to normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can only hope. And Eli, have you been doing any live streams with BritBeat?
No, I mean, the same situation. All of our shows were canceled. Also, we were able to salvage, not so much a salvage, but a show was created. A COVID-friendly show was created in Skokie, Illinois, back in, I want to say, July? I don't even remember. And it went so well that they decided to do another one. And actually, that show is Friday, October 9th, a John Lennon birthday bash in Skokie, Illinois at the North Shore Performing Arts Center, and it's sold out. Woo-hoo. So, very, very carefully done, social distance, make sure everyone is seated apart, masks on, and so we're very excited to be able to do that and just be able to do just another show. Hopefully another one will pop up before the year is over, but if it doesn't happen, we won't be surprised.
You can hope, yeah. How many people is that show?
200, 250.
Okay.
It's a performing arts center that we normally play once a year, once every year, and we basically always sell it out. It's a pretty huge place, so they're doing it in the parking lot, and because they can only hold, they're only selling about 200 tickets, so they figured, that's maybe a fifth of the people who would normally come to see us, so they decided to have us come twice this summer to give more people the opportunity, which is really cool.
Oh, that is nice of them. Yeah, that's great. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Which is going to happen today when we air this. But let's get into, I want to know, because Michael, you're joining us from DC area, and Eli, you're in Detroit area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love the scope of the Beatles influence. And I want to know how both of you guys got into the Beatles and started to play music, kind of going into your background there. Let's start with Eli.
I don't remember when the Beatles music was not part of my life. I have no memory of not knowing the music. That's how young I was. And I give my older brother full credit for that. I mean, I remember clear as a day crying like a baby when John Lennon died. I was 8 years old, so I was already that much of a fan at 8 that it impacted me. So me and the Beatles go way back. As far as playing music, I started at age 7, maybe, playing violin, and did violin for many, many years, and then switched over to guitar, and then played electric guitar all through high school and into college. And then in college, I actually decided to get a degree in music, focusing on classical music, and I actually stopped playing electric guitar for a while and focused on classical music. And then once my degree wrapped up, that's when I started getting back into electric guitar and decided to focus my Beatle fandom into a tribute band. So I've been playing fake John Lennon for, I want to say, 18 or 19 years now.
Wow. Fake John Lennon. I like that you say that.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, Michael, how about you?
Well, my dad is the Paul in Hard Day's Night. So similar to Eli, there was not a moment when the Beatles weren't some part of my life. I didn't have designs to get into a tribute act, when I was coming out of college, and then at the end of college, I was in kind of a recording indie band and fancied myself a serious songwriting musician. And once that all exploded, I got a call one day saying, "How many Beatles songs do you know?" Because the John in Hard Day's Night had quit right before their big New Year's show. So I was quickly hurried into shape, with the caveat that I'd play for a few shows until they got someone else to do it. And that was 15 years ago.
Oh, wow. I was just going to ask how long.
It was 2005, so it stuck. I've always loved the Beatles. I always loved playing the Beatles. It wasn't a music thing. It was just until you put it on, the idea of the suit and boots and wigs, and there's a lot of people just around in other bands that don't understand what a tribute band really is. And even though my dad was in it, and maybe because my dad was in it, I kind of thought of it as, a strange endeavor. But once you started doing it and seeing that the audiences truly, truly love what we're doing, there's a definite passionate give and take there. And it's fulfilling in a way that I never expected it to be. Just sharing in that moment and sharing in that passion with the audiences, it's unbelievable. So like I said, I kind of accidentally landed in it and can't get out. So I guess I'll stick with it now.
Right. Well, that was going to be my next question, is how did you both pick to emulate John over the other Beatles? But Michael, you kind of
I didn't have a choice.
Got pushed into it. Yeah.
My dad was doing Paul, and if I tried to play that, the guitar was swiftly taken from me.
Right.
And I had to learn the John part. Otherwise, I'd have had to play, I don't know, drums or something. And I didn't want to be Ringo.
Right. You didn't want to. I was going to ask, if you had the choice, would you rather be Paul or George?
No, it's the right part.
It's you go with it. Yeah. Okay. Eli, how did you choose John over the other Beatles?
It was just natural. John fits my personality, my playing style, my singing style, my personality, and it always goes back to that. So and he was always my favorite Beatle growing up. His were the songs I liked the most. No, I mean, I love the other ones as well, but I always was drawn towards that more than the others. So it was just a natural fit. I mean, and I got into the tribute business because a friend of mine actually saw an ad from a local Detroit band that was looking for a John, and he was like, "Hey, I've heard you sing, and I know you can do a pretty good John Lennon impersonation. Have you ever thought about, playing in a tribute band?" And I was like, I'll think about it, because I had already seen 1964 and a couple other bands by that point, so I definitely knew what the tribute band world was. So I decided to audition for the band. The band was not very good, but it gave me the idea. I was like, you know what, this could work. This is kind of cool. And so I started my own band in Detroit from that point on, and then started playing with other bands, started doing fill-in work, and then eventually fell into BritBeat's lap. So.
Okay, that's very cool. I want to go through. This might be a curveball, not really, but your process into getting into John. Is there like like something that happens when you put the wig on, or like do you have like a mantra or something, like a way that you get into character before you do a show?
Take it away, Mike.
All right. I say it's when the wig goes on.
Yeah.
I put
then
John
you
on
like
when the
look
wig
at
goes on.
yourself in the mirror.
I mean, I think like Eli said, there's a bit of it that is a bit organic that, I'm a little drier, a little more sarcastic, a little more biting with the humor. And throughout the day, like you arrive at a show and you're definitely, not in character, at least where I'm not. And then after sound check, like you start to fall in. And by the time we're at like a dinner, it's a sound check and then some sort of meal or sandwich tray or something. That's when you're hanging out with the guys backstage. Everyone's kind of getting into character slowly, organically calling each other by name. And some of us are better at accents than others, but, falling into accent. And then once you start suiting up, it really like you start locking in and like, if there's any makeup involved or God help us, spirit gum, sticking things to faces.
Right.
But it's I don't know, it's slow. And then I think it's hard, especially early on when you're doing this. Eli, you can attest or disagree, but I feel like staying in character through like the things that happen organically during a show, especially unexpected things, when something goes wrong or goes not to schedule, not dropping that and breaking the fourth wall, if you will, and kind of staying true to what you're trying to do is sometimes very difficult. And I know that our Paul, my dad, is just awful at it. And
Yeah.
he'll look over across the stage, just go, Michael, like when he can't find his cable or the strap won't button.
Which is funny,
I would
because
assume that's
almost
hard.
the opposite with us, because when things do go unexpected, it tends to always, all eyes on the band tend to look at me. I tend to be the guy who instantly comes up with something to say.
Right. No. Yeah. That's.
And
I'm the fixer.
That,
yeah.
John.
I have the same role.
Yeah, and that's been in every band that I've ever been in, not just I'm not talking about BritBeat. I'm talking about every group I've ever played with. I've always landed in that role, and again, maybe that's why I was drawn to John. That the quickness. I'm not saying I always say the right thing, but I always say something to stall if necessary.
I love your guys' stage banter. You guys do it right.
Thank you.
Fun stuff. Believe me, I've thought of stealing your jokes on a couple occasions, but that one about wives and girlfriends and made everything.
Hey! You can't say that live.
Don't give the secrets away.
Come on, everyone here's seen the show.
They have, that's true. Oh, that's funny. Well,
but it's better than you got to get out of the hold me, love me, the stuff that everybody does. That's like, oh, we're gonna do
the
this
rattle
again.
your jewelry remark,
and that's a hard thing too. It's the rattle your jewelry, because there's a couple canned lines and canned bits that are almost like doing the song. It's like part of the set list where it becomes tedious and it's hard to do it energetically every night without kind of being like, oh, you're 8 days a week again,
It's funny also when you're talking about, how you go about getting into character beforehand. It's actually kind of cool. It happens a lot with BritBeat, actually, where usually when we walk into a theater or a performing arts center and we start talking with the staff who is helping us set up or unload our vehicles, it's pretty funny how we almost always have the stage manager or someone come up to us individually and go,
try to guess.
You're Paul.
Yeah.
You're John. And they're almost always right. And if you look at us, especially obviously out of makeup and costume, we look nothing like the guys that we're portraying. Once we get booted and suited, we actually and get the makeup on, it's pretty convincing. But when we just walk in, we look nothing like them. But somehow, whether our personalities or something makes them go, you're John, you're Paul, you're George, and they're almost always right. So I think that getting into character I think we all pick our guy because there's something about them that feels natural to us that we can relate to. Maybe not. I don't know. But it seems like I'm not sure if it's a coincidence that the people can always pick us out before we get booted and suited, which is kind of cool. So
it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume that you guys kind of go with the character, you know, like your personalities have to, like you picked John because you were, you know, your personality goes with him, and the same with the other guys, you know. So I assume they would be able to pick that, especially for Chris. He definitely looks like Paul.
Yeah, that's one of the things that always confuse me when you get the guys who are like, I can play any part, I can do them all, and it's like, well, that's interesting. A lot of the guys can flip back and forth between characters, but they never really master any one of them. Not that any of us can master it, but you know what I mean. Because they don't focus on the one character and they dip a little bit into all the different ones. You can definitely tell that there's something missing there.
Right.
But who knows?
Yeah. Well, you guys know like everything about John, so I was curious about what are some like fun quirks or something that not a lot of people know about John, either like facially or like things that you've researched either in his voice or like facial tics or toe taps that like you think not a lot of people know, or that is your like favorite thing to emulate.
Well, you know, I'm not sure if there's anything about the Beatles that nobody doesn't know at this point in time. It's ridiculous. John and Michael can attest to this too. You know, they're all have their quirks on stage of what they do, or you know, maybe they did it one time, but the footage is so well known that everybody thinks this person did this one thing at every single show throughout their entire career, and they expect you to do that, which is odd, but that's okay. As far as mannerism and whatnot with Lennon, strange dude, obviously wore the guitar up a bit higher than normal. So that's the first thing that if you're doing that wrong, people pick up on that. Kind of high. In fact, Keith Richards once told Lennon, he was kind of mocking him for holding the guitar up so high. And he said, Johnny, with your guitar that high, you can rock, but you certainly can't roll. And so Lennon started to lower the guitar a little bit after that because he was embarrassed by it. There's obviously the stance with the bent knees, which far too many tribute artists take too far, and they
riding the horse.
They make it look like he's galloping on an invisible horse. Smaller is better. Any Lennon guys watching who are new to this, trust me, less is more.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't have to be a hamstring workout. You don't have.
Yeah. But also Lennon tapped his left foot, which is odd because he's right-handed. And if you look at all the footage, he's keeping the beat with his right foot, which is harder than it sounds.
And he'd stand with that left foot slightly front.
Slightly front. And then he also, when he sang, he tend to do a bit of the chicken thing. So you've got the bouncing up and down, the tapping with the left foot, the chicken thing. And then if you want to go even farther, if you don't have enough to think about, there's the dandruff scratching. John had a horrible case of dandruff, and if you look at all the footage of the concerts, he's constantly doing this and also scratching his sideburns. It was dandruff. I
didn't know that.
Several people used to say, "Hey, was your wig slipping? We saw that you were always adjusting it." I'm like, "No, I was doing the scratching." They're like,
"Character tick,
okay, we thought your wig was slipping." So,
oh man,
it's funny that when you start, that is a fear. Like you're afraid you're going to catch it with a strap and flip it off or something,
or pull out your in-ear or something.
It's never happened yet. Yeah.
And then there is, of course, not to take all the answers, Michael. I'm sorry, but then there's the ever popular gum chewing, which also gets blown out of proportion. Chewing gum was something that John did in the early days. That was one of the many things that Brian Epstein said, no chewing gum on stage. So most of the Johns out there chew gum on stage, which is incorrect. John didn't start chewing gum until after Brian was out of the picture, and then you'll see him chewing gum like in the Let It Be movie or the footage after the fact. You know, as far as
Interesting.
your early Hard Day's Night and help stuff, he's not chewing gum at that point in time. But a lot of Johns just tend to chew gum anyway, even though technically not correct.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's hard with the gum, the harmonica, the bouncing,
The
and a
foot,
microphone.
dandruff.
Mhm.
You dandruff. I have a little chip in my tooth from sometimes the mic stand will get rocking
Ah,
and whacks you in the
oh,
face.
that's what happened. It hit you.
Just probably Help or Hard Day's Night where we've got the
Mm.
J160 on and it's just bouncing around.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of us. You know, you get crazy with details, so you try to be a little more period correct and use straight stands, not boom stands.
Mhm.
Which, when you're playing a thicker jumbo body guitar, it takes up more real estate, and well,
Right.
stuff
Well,
happens.
perils of
Yeah.
performance.
Get a fat
Performing.
lip from your.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. Well, that's great. Well, I wanted to get into maybe because since you guys both know so much about John and emulate him, I'm curious from you two who probably have done a lot of research on John and obviously know him pretty well. What you think he would think about everything that's happening this year between COVID and the protests and the upcoming election? I mean, just speculative, this is all, we don't know what John really thinks, but if you want to get into it and give it a crack, would he be out there with the protesters? Would he be doing his bed-in thing? Would he be letting other people lead the way and just taking a back seat? I'm just curious if you want to answer that.
I think quite likely he would have a very vocal opinion on the matter. He didn't tend to like it when people were, putting other people down and trying to divide. It seemed like outwardly he certainly was a champion of, peace, love, harmony, and bringing people together. So I think that would be something that he very much would be against. And then on the racial division, the Beatles in Jacksonville in '65, I believe, they were threatening to not play Jacksonville because they were going to segregate the stadium. And the Beatles said, well, if you're going to segregate, we're not going to play. So I think
big protest for them to do that.
Yeah, I think, and in the day, that was unheard of, that this British band would come and make a civil rights stance. So yeah, I truly think John would be pretty outspoken about what's going on and not like our current, shall we say, government administration. I think he'd be very much hoping for change and probably out writing songs and, singing at protests with the people.
Yeah. Eli, do you have anything to add?
Actually, I have something very, very different to say about that. I have a rather unpopular opinion about all of that. I was just talking to someone about this recently. This is the way my take on Lennon. Lennon's adult life, which we all know was only 22 years, it seemed like he was always, throughout his life, trying to fill a hole. And he would find something, latch onto it, and because he's a celebrity, it was always very public that he latched onto something. He tried out for a while, and then it seemed like he would get bored and move on. And this goes all the way from the transcendental meditation to the experimental music he was making with Yoko, to the scream therapy, the macrobiotic diets. He would do something and then kind of move on. And if you look at his life as an activist, that was basically from 69 to 72, less than 3 years. And once he decided that he was done with activism, he never went back. He didn't do a thing between 72 and 80. So I tend to think that, like the other things, was something that interested him. He tried it, did his thing, and then moved on to look for other things to focus his life on. Lennon even said in later interviews that the activism ruined his career, and that he had regrets about it. Not about the actual activism, but about the way he went about doing it. He second-guessed the fact that as an artist, what your job is to try to make the world know how you feel, not to tell the world how to feel. and that he thought he would have made a bigger impact just playing music, maybe doing fundraising concerts and whatnot, and not walking around with a sign and a megaphone. So even Lennon realized that he probably could have done this a little bit differently. With that being said, if he were alive now, I'm not so sure how vocal he'd be. I think he probably would be about as vocal as most celebrities are in this day and age. Maybe something on Twitter every once in a while, or social media.
So I was going to say, John Lennon has a Twitter.
Can you picture him on social media?
I can't picture John doing protests or marching or doing anything, because that seemed to have been something that he had moved away from, and he was fine with the fact that he had moved away from it.
And he would have been in the age range of like being more at risk for COVID. So he would have been down at the protests.
That too. Now with that said, I mean, it's kind of really, really good fuel. I can't imagine maybe he would change his mind and go back to it and write a song about Trump.
Yeah.
Because the material is just there. And is this live? Okay, because I just said that, and it looks like Trump just tweeted something about that. And he says, okay, I'm reading this. This is live scoop, folks. It says, phony John Lennon has just released a song nobody is going to listen to. Most overrated, untalented man on the left. Pathetic and sad. Well, there you go. There you go. So it's there it is.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's certainly true that John was one of those artists that once they did something, he didn't want to go back. That was something with the Beatles also. They did Sgt. Pepper. He was done with it. They were ready to do something different. So from an evolution standpoint, and also, his activism stuff ended when really he took a break from everything for 5-6 years there in the 70s, where he just dropped away.
Right.
And then the Lost Weekend, and right as he was coming back, then he was murdered. It's hard to speculate, because you even take his tone on the Beatles from, writing songs, How Do You Sleep, and some pretty nasty comments, and really denigrating the Beatles music as a whole early on to in the 80s, or right before his death, he gave an interview where he sounded almost certain that some sort of reconciliation would happen, that, we'll probably get together and do something. And, so he was always constantly evolving and constantly changing. So it's probably hard to put a peg on him.
Yeah, it is really hard to speculate what he would have.
Whereas Paul's kind of Paul.
Paul's very consistent.
Always Paul. Unless he is Billy Shears, which is a whole nother matter.
Right.
But John was more, he's a good representation of the duality of humans, where he was, he could be outwardly very, writing songs about peace and love and hope and togetherness. And then inwardly he was full of doubt and anger and, jealousy. And that made being around him, I'm sure, very difficult at times, for whether you were his spouse or whether you were his bandmates. He could be a bear.
Right. Yeah. He was very volatile and always changing, but that's one of the things we love about him too. It's just like,
it is. It made his songwriting,
and changes his mind and makes mistakes, and that's okay.
Makes him incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
That's why we all love him. Well, let's bring it back to something exciting. I was going to ask what your favorite John song is to perform on stage, or just in general, which song speaks to you the most?
For me, my favorite John song just happens to also be my favorite song to do live, which is Day in the Life. That has always been the song that I've always identified with John Lennon. That's the song that, for whatever reason, I identify with his murder. And when we do that on stage, that's my happy place. So it's that song.
Yeah.
I think in my life, for me, has always been somehow I think the era of the Beatles that really made me a Beatles fan was the Rubber Soul Revolver period. I love those two albums, and In My Life, I think, is one of those perfect pop songs. It's fantastic. One that we don't get to do would be Girl off the same album. We don't do that live very often because it's a tricky song, and everyone's afraid one of us is going to pitch out on the harmony. So
Oh yeah, I can see that
we
being
fail on it.
kind of tough.
And then an odd one, she said, when we get to do that one, I love just right at the beginning when the downbeat comes and the bass drops and it's just a big, kind of hits you in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Those little moments get me. So
yeah, those are great. I definitely thought both of you were going to pick like a more of a solo John song, like Working Class Hero or something. So that's interesting. You both picked like mid-year Beatles songs, mid to late Beatles. So that's great. Cool. Well, I just wanted to, that's pretty much all I got, unless you want to add something else. So, but this was great to talk about John, and, let me know if you want to promote anything else you want to add about how, the influence of John on your life. You can go for it right now.
So you, Michael.
John on my life. Well, promote, watch harddaysnight.net for our live stream coming up October 17th from 31 West in Newark, Ohio. And I guess as far as John's impact on my life, I would say songwriting. When I was working at writing songs, the depth of the subject matter and from a chord change standpoint, I love the way he works major to minor, and writes about things that are very, very personal. I guess that more than anything is what John taught me. It's just how to express yourself through music and express, like Eli said, let people know what you're feeling, not necessarily what they need to be feeling. So it's a good way to state it. I just stole another line from you, Eli. Sorry. Check will be in the mail, man.
Very good. And then all I can say is that just keep looking at BritBeat.com. Again, we've got the show on October 9th in Skokie, which we're very, very excited about. Hopefully something else will happen in the rest of the year. But if not, we've already got a pretty full schedule for 2021. We're just going to keep our fingers crossed that everything kind of cleans up, because not only do we have our normal bookings that we are already booking, but all the 2020 shows that all got pushed
back
next year. So it could make for a very, very busy schedule. So we just ask everyone to just keep watching our website and also keep following us on Facebook. Chris is constantly posting videos and information about the band. So that's the best thing we can do about that. And then as far as, John's influence, one of my favorite George Harrison quotes when talking about John was, he said that John gave the Beatles their fire. And I love that line. And I love being able to represent that on stage. I'm not a songwriter. I have a history in the theater and being on stage. And because I no longer pursue that, I'm no longer actively doing that, being able to go on stage and portray a character that I truly adore, and be able to get away with antics on stage that playing any other character, I wouldn't be allowed to do it. So I just love being able to have that moment with the audience and just escape from the world for a good 2.5 hours every night. So as far as, the influence that John has, I'm just glad that because of him, I'm able to do something that I absolutely adore. And, Mark Benson from 1964 once gave me the world's greatest advice. He said, stay thin and take care of your skin, and you'll have this job for a very, very long time. And that's the plan. So.
There you go. Oh, well, if I knew that, we could have gone into, skincare routines for John Lennon lookalikes, but we won't do that. But that's great. Thank you so much for being here. And, good luck next year. We can only hope that we can all come back, and hope that we get to see you at Abbey Road on the River next May. I know everyone is looking forward to that, and hopefully we give people some hope today and this weekend on our virtual event, because that's the only way we can stay safe and bring happiness to people, which is what musicians and event producers want to do.
Yeah, we obviously miss seeing our fans very much, and at Abbey Road on the River, we obviously miss not only the fans but the other bands as well. There's obviously very, very good camaraderie between all the bands, and we love hanging out with all the other bands. And yeah, we miss that, and we know the fans miss it too. So yeah, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we'll see you all next year. We miss you all. We love you.
Yep. Amen.